I was going to write an article called, and I still may write it, called "You Did What with Whom." And so the idea was that we're working with people, on a regular basis as business owners, business leaders. We have people that are on our team, and we're hiring people, and sometimes people don't work out in the organization. The challenge I think sometimes is realizing getting the best situation, with our teams. And I think in my case, I've noticed a number of times, when, I've hired people and, they come onto the team and they're a little bit different, than what I expected, whether it's their mannerisms or, whatever it is. And I think I've gotten to a point where, I'm just like impatient, about certain things. And I'm just like, okay, my gut is telling me, this and that, and, this person's gonna, not be great. And, I need to, fire quickly and not have this on my books, just sitting on my books because I don't see the return on that. And one of the things I realized today while I was driving around is that, or I recalled, I should say, as I was driving around, was the 5 dysfunctions of a team. If you've ever read that book, you've got the idea that, teams come together, and then they have a storming period, then they have this norming period, then they have this performing period, and then, the last stage of that is adjourning. And so what I noticed, and, I don't know if you experienced this as well, but what I noticed is that, I'm hiring these people, I'm forming these teams, between myself and another person, or, forming these teams, and then we go into that storming phase, and I think that with all of the busyness of business, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this storming phase, and, I'm not going at it from a wise perspective. I'm just sitting here saying, this person's getting on my nerves, et cetera, et cetera. And, I'm very thankful that, I had this epiphany. But I had this epiphany and was able to recognize that this is part of the process. And then I came back and I had the conversation with one of the gentlemen that, I had hired, and I was just kind of struggling with a little bit. And I was like, dude, I was really frustrated with you because, I was expecting X and then you're giving me Y. And, when I initially looked at Y, I realized that in reality, I hadn't done, I hadn't been as specific about one particular component about what we needed to deliver, and therefore he delivered something that was good, but it wasn't just what I had envisioned or what I had discovered since the time that we talked about it and the time that he delivered it. And I'm glad, that I actually went back and looked at it and looked at the instructions and looked at, what he delivered, tried to understand from his perspective, what we delivered before having that conversation with him, because, I obviously would have been upset with him and about the situation. The interesting thing, though, is that he had observed that, I was getting a little bit frustrated, and, we were able to talk about it, which was awesome. He was just saying, it's like, it seemed like you were really frustrated and this and that and this and that. And I explained to him, what I was talking to you about in terms of, the 5 dysfunctions and how, I'm realizing that we're going through this period. And the coolest thing about that is by having that conversation, by having that experience, and then having that conversation about the challenges that I was having or that we were having working together, we're actually moving towards that norming phase when we're just like, okay, we understand each other, we understand what the expectations are, the communication style, et cetera, and then we look forward to that phase where we're performing, where we're just executing. He understands, what I'm looking for, I understand what his requirements are, and then we're pushing forward. And so going back to you did, what with who, or you did what with whom, what we have to do as business leaders is we really have to understand what's going on. We have to understand that we're working with people, and people are willing to go the distance, with us, with our companies, and help us move to the next level. Now, there are going to be times when we're having these, when we bring people into the organization and they're not quite the right fit. Okay, so they come in in one role. That doesn't make them without value. That may not make them without value to the organization, because there may be other places where they do fit, and they do fit well, and they do thrive. And so just saying, okay, you know what, I'm looking at your performance review, and your performance review says you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Here's your performance improvement plan. Okay, you didn't execute well on the performance improvement plan, you're out the door. It may be kind of silly. It may be something that's a huge waste of time because you know, like I know, it takes time and energy and money, et cetera, in order to hire a person. So what we need to be able to do again is to look at people like people. We need to understand where we are. We need to understand where they are. We need to make decisions that are wise. They're not just gut. They're not just, oh my gosh, this is upsetting me. It's just like, how do we get the most out of the situation? What is that silver lining? How can we bring gold back to the organization? How can we leverage the people that we've put effort into, that have put effort into our organizations in order to get the greatest win for everybody? So that's my thought for today. Relentlessly pursue winning. I will see you next time. Thank you.